I now give the floor to His Excellency Taye Aske Selassie Amde, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia.
ክቡር የጠቅላላ ጉባኤ ፕሬዝዳንት፣ የተከበሩ የተባበሩት መንግስታት ድርጅት ዋና ጸሐፊ፣ ክቡራትና ክቡራን፣ ክቡር ፕሬዝዳንት ፊሊሞን ያንግ የ79ኛው ጠቅላላ ጉባኤ ፕሬዝዳንት ሆነው ስለተመረጡ ለእርሶና ለአገሮ ካሜሮን ደስታዬን እየገለጽኩ ውጤታማ የሥራ ዘመን እንዲሆንልዎት እመኛለሁ። በተጨማሪም የ78ኛው ጉባኤ ፕሬዝዳንት ክቡር ዴኒስ ፍራንሲስ ስላሳዩት አመራር ላቅ ያለ ምስጋና አቀርባለሁ። አገሬ ኢትዮጵያን ወክዬ በዚህ ታላቅ ጉባኤ ንግግር በማድረጌ የተሰማኝ ከፍ ያለ ክብር ለመግለጽ እወዳለሁ። Mr. President, as a country that was one of the 51 founding members of the United Nations, Ethiopia is a strong proponent of effective multilateralism centered on the United Nations. Ethiopia views with grave concern the challenges of the United Nations facing in discharging its role in peace and security and socio-economic development. Nevertheless, ensuring readiness and capability of the United Nations to resolve global challenges has been a generational quest. 5 years into the establishment of the United Nations, in the year 1950, 74 years ago, Ethiopia, in its policy statement, stated to this august assembly, I quote, "We are filled with anxiety concerning the surprises which the future may hold in store. Fears that the United Nations may be called upon to face events even more serious than those of the present time, and that such problems may greatly exceed its power and capacity." End of quote. That future is now, and that future is the present. We are faced with persisting peace and security challenges across the globe. There is a devastating existential threat emanating from arms race, extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change. At the same time, global commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals is receding, and the debt crisis in developing countries is worsening. Furthermore, our constrained ability to manage the emerging multipolar world carries the risk of undermining multilateralism. As envisaged, the United Nations is called upon to face challenges that are proving to exceed its powers and capabilities. It is our view that collective security will be realized if states are able to exercise their authority and carry out their responsibilities to safeguard their national security. The conventional dictates, including peacekeeping missions, can deliver the desired results when we prioritize support for national efforts and capabilities. We must therefore at all times preserve the sovereignty and political independence of states at the foundation of effective collective security. We also call for greater economic and security cooperation among member states, which is pivotal to empowering national institutions. The shortcomings of the United Nations reflect the reluctance on the part of the international community to promote the effective realization of the principles and purposes of the Charter. The United Nations should be at the center of efforts to resolve global peace and security challenges. Without a substantial role for the United Nations guided by the principles of the Charter, we risk making the General Assembly a non-consequential platform with no guarantee for a meaningful contribution to global peace and security. On its part, the United Nations should play its role by demonstrating impartiality, independence, competence, and credibility among all its members. Furthermore, we underscore the urgency to reform the United Nations Security Council and its working methods. The reform of the Security Council is not only about rectifying the injustice done to Africa, but also about the credibility of the Council itself. The impacts of Africa's exclusion on the Security Council's inability to discharge its cardinal responsibilities manifest in its disproportionate focus on internal affairs of African affairs. In addition, the Council's lukewarm attitude toward regional solutions and the implementation of measures detached from reality on the ground are results of Africa's non-representation. We therefore call on member states to commit to prioritizing Africa's representation in both categories of membership of the UN Security Council with all rights and prerogatives as articulated under Africa's common position. There is no shortcut or half solution to this long-standing quest for equality. Mr. President, the African Union has designed Agenda 2633 as the blueprint for the continent's development. The agenda is being implemented in synchronization with the UN Agenda 2030. The fact that the SDGs are off track mostly due to lack of financing is a source of concern for Africa. The compounding debt crisis also requires urgent and sustainable solution. Therefore, those member states with impact on global financial institutions should make the necessary financial resources available. On its part, Ethiopia has been consistent in its effort to achieve these development goals. In parallel with resolving a complex security challenges through an African Union-facilitated peace process, Ethiopia has redoubled its effort to forge peace and development. We are making progress in poverty eradication and realizing people-centered development. We introduce transformational shifts to our monetary and economic policies and to advance our digital infrastructure. We are confident our development path will bring about a great benefits to our people. We call on all actors in development finance to work with us with a sense of solidarity and cooperation to navigate the challenges of reform and attain sustainable economic growth and development. Mr. President, I have the distinct pleasure to announce to this Assembly the milestone the Nile River Basin has achieved this year. The Cooperative Framework Agreement of the Nile River Basin, CFA, is poised to enter into force with a required number of ratifications. The entry into force of this first ever Nile Basin-wide treaty, the Cooperative Framework Agreement, will pave the way for sustained cooperation and shared growth across the entire river basin. Ethiopia, along with its co-riparian sisterly countries, will work towards the realization of the principles of the CFA and the full potential of the Nile River. Furthermore, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is generating electricity, responding to the energy demands of Ethiopia and the Eastern African region. It is our sincere hope that the remaining riparian countries will join the CFA and play a constructive role in ensuring equitable and reasonable utilization of the Nile River. I'm also proud to announce to this august assembly that The Ethiopian Green Legacy, the notable initiative of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, saw the planting of 40 billion seedlings within 5 years, increasing our forest coverage from 3 to 24%. This stands as a substantial goal contribution to the absorption of greenhouse gas and a tangible measure against the adverse impact of climate change. Based on its long-term low-emission development strategy, Ethiopia is also on the path to sustainable energy transformation by developing and transitioning to non-fossil fuel energy sources. Such efforts must be supported by the full activation of the global commitment, especially through the provision of adequate climate financing. Mr. President, maritime insecurity in the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean is a source of great concern for Ethiopia. With over 120 million population and significant maritime trade, Ethiopia entirely depends on the safe, secure maritime activity in the Red Sea and Indian Ocean. This region is threatened by conflicts, piracy, and other illicit activities. Over the years, Ethiopia has played an instrumental role in combating the cause of insecurity. We also continue our efforts to work with other neighbors to contribute on durable basis to ensure peaceful navigation on the high seas. We see a great need to chart a new path for inclusive maritime security engagement with equal participation of countries with stakes on both sides of the Red Sea and Indian Ocean. Furthermore, terrorism continues to be a grave threat to the peace and security of the Horn of Africa. The growing rise of violent extremism like Al-Shabaab and its international and internal affiliates have continued their vicious attack against civilians and security of the region. The region has reached a milestone in degrading terrorism owing to the resilience of the people of Somalia and the sacrifice of the sons and daughters of Burundi, Djibouti, Kenya, Uganda, and my country, Ethiopia. The authorization of the Security Council and the international finance for the African Union peace support operation have indeed played an instrumental role. I'm confident the government of Somalia will soon reckon with and recognize the sacrifice we made to Somalia's liberation from the grip of terrorist groups. Ethiopia's Memorandum of Understanding with Somaliland is based on existing political dispensation in Somalia. Our objective is shared growth and prosperity in the region. Similar agreements have been concluded by other states, and there is no reason for the government of Somalia to incite hostility that obviously intends to cover internal political tensions. I therefore reject the unfounded allegation leveled against my country. Ethiopia's name can never be associated with any one of the allegations. I rather call on the federal government of Somalia to join hands to eliminate terrorist groups that are causing chaos and mayhem on the people of the region. The recent maneuvers of actors from outside the Horn of Africa region undermine these efforts. Nevertheless, Ethiopia will not be deterred from its resolute commitment to combating terrorism. We therefore call upon these actors to immediately stop their reckless actions. We also call on the international community to recognize the imminent risk originating from these irresponsible acts and to take concrete measures to prevent the loss of hard-won gains in combating terrorism in the Horn of Africa. Mr. President, in conclusion, I would like to reiterate Ethiopia's commitment to the maintenance of global peace and security and upholding multilateralism. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia.